Well, folks, welcome into another live post-game reaction show. The Toronto Maple Leafs have just left the ice victorious in a 2-0 victory in the Sunshine State over the defending Cup champions Florida Panthers, sending the series to Game 7 Sunday night. Welcome to the Toronto Sports Rush channel, brought to you by the Bet Rivers Network. My name is Kyle Andrew. I'm joined once again by lead NHL Network analyst, Mr. EJ Hradek. EJ, the rumors of the Toronto Maple Leafs' death have been greatly exaggerated.
Yeah, they were. I mean, I'll be straightforward. Thought it was over tonight. I don't think I was alone in that in those thoughts either. I mean, based on what we saw in Game 5 when they just had a meltdown on home ice. It was ugly in every sense of the word, but all year long, Kyle, we've been doing these post games. We've been doing reports throughout the year on the Toronto Sports Rush. And, I kept talking about how it did seem different. They're more contender than pretender. The roster is different. And, in the end, they found a way to play a really good, smart game, the kind of game that you have to have on the road, the kind of game that you have to have in the playoffs against a really good opponent. Their penalty killing was great. They won a bunch of faceoffs. They blocked 31 shots in the game, which offset the fact that Florida had 80 shot attempts to 42 for Toronto. So you got to give them a lot of credit. I mean, they played good in the first despite giving up, having a couple of penalties. They really struggled in the second period. And in the third period, they just didn't make those situational mistakes that kill them. And they got a break. Puck went off the stick of Ekblad. Marner was right there. Matthews coming through with speed. His shot looked like it might have been deflected a little bit there by Gustav Forsling, and it beats Bobrovsky, who proves to be human after all.
Yeah.
And, then they get a second goal from Pacioretty off a great pass from Bobby McMann, and they win it 2-0. Joe Woll with 21 saves. But I think the biggest thing for me, Kyle, is the penalty killing tonight was really important, and it was really big when it, throughout the game, and they didn't let the Panthers gain momentum with those. I think they had 4 power play opportunities in the game.
Yeah, they did. The Leafs took 8 minutes in penalties tonight, but those 2 back-to-back in the first period were, as you just mentioned, quite key to the whole thing because they killed them off consecutively. They killed them off very effectively, and it likely gave them the type of boost and momentum. Hey, we can hang with these guys in their building. And I had made note of something in the pregame discussion with Craig Berube talking about special teams and just the calmness in his voice and the calmness with which he said he spoke to his players set them up for this game tonight, they did look in control of themselves on the ice tonight. They killed the penalties effectively. They did all of the little things they needed to do while facing numerous periods of onslaught from a Florida team that looked ready to close it out tonight.
Yeah, they made smart plays as much as they could. They battled hard. I think, if you were to say to me, like, who played well in the game for Toronto, I mean, I can't think of anybody who didn't play well in the game. I mean, they played as well as they can play. And you got a big contribution from Marner and Matthews. I mean, they played arguably their worst postseason game in their careers in Game 5. And, from what I understood watching the broadcast tonight, Berube talked to Matthews at length on the ice today, and maybe Craig Berube's demeanor, which I think has been important for the Leafs all year long in terms of setting a tone for the team, was helpful in getting ready for this obviously big game. I mean, an elimination Game 6, and they played very well, so give them a lot of credit. And Kyle, we talked about it prior to coming up. The Leafs are going to Game 7 with the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. If you would have asked me at the start of the series, I would have said that's unlikely. I would have thought Florida would win the series maybe in 6. It is the way that this series has unfolded to me that has kind of thrown a monkey wrench into everybody's thinking, because Toronto won the first 2 games and they had 2 2-goal leads in Game 3, only to lose in overtime. Then they lose a tight game in Game 4. And then they have just a meltdown in Game 5, and it looks like everything is going the other way. And then they come back with a strong performance. So in the end, I guess it doesn't matter how you got there. They're getting to a Game 7 on home ice, which they earned with their play during the regular season. So can they take advantage of it? Who the hell knows, Kyle? But I'll tell you this. if they can bring the same type of game they had tonight, they'll have a chance. And that's really what matters.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Like, there's something about the momentum shifts of this series. It truly does deserve a seventh game because, as you stated, up 3-1 in that third game, Florida looked
Yeah.
like maybe they just played too many games over the last few
Yeah.
seasons. Maybe they looked tired, but then the championship mentality took over. They completely swung the momentum from that 3-1 lead right up until tonight. And then you face a Toronto Maple Leafs team that looked dead in the water after the last game, get on the road to travel, haven't won. Florida has been the only team to win a road game in this series up to now. Florida, a tough building to win a road game in, and the Leafs got it done. And you, again, as you state, everyone played well. No one was the outstanding person. I thought Nyes was on pace to have an incredible hockey game until he seemingly got a little bit hurt and his pace slowed down, but he still played well. But he was really all over the ice. But everyone just kind of did their job. Special teams, mainly the penalty kill, was very good. Woll stopped every shot he faced, and they won almost 62% of the faceoffs tonight, which is big, especially towards the end when the net was empty for 3 minutes. Those faceoffs become huge.
Yeah, and those faceoffs are big. When else? When you're killing a penalty.
Yeah.
There was one particular faceoff they won. Marner went behind the net. That's kind of a set play. It goes to Marner. He fires it out. And then the Florida Panthers had really a hard time regaining the zone and getting to their set. So faceoffs, they won the lion's share of them tonight, and they won the important ones in the game, which was huge for this team. I mean, think about some of the players. I thought Benoit played a big game tonight.
Big game.
McCabe did what he usually does. He plays physical. Chris Tanev had 6 blocks, and he's a big bear back there on defense. That's why they went out and got him. Scott Lawton up front, they got him at the trade deadline. I mean, he made a lot of little nice plays tonight that you're looking for from your bottom 6 centers there. It was good to have Yarn Krok back in the lineup and Holmberg as well. I think those two guys, I don't know if they ever really should have come out of the lineup, but they're back in, and they add a little juice to that bottom part of it. And Holmberg can kind of move up and down the lineup as you saw tonight. So, and then Bobby McMahon made a hell of a pass there on that play to Pacioretty. And Pacioretty, I saw an interesting note online that Pacioretty has played 16 elimination games in his career. He has 8 goals in 16 elimination games. That's a pretty significant half a goal a game in those kind of big games where goals are a lot of times hard to come by in those games. It's pretty impressive. So, we're back to Toronto, as Connor McDavid said last year. It's about the Florida. We're dragging them back to Edmonton, and now Auston Matthews can say we're dragging them back to Toronto for a big Game 7. And you get into a 1-game situation, Kyle. If ever there was something to learn, the last 2 games, right? There were individual games. One, the Toronto Maple Leafs played awful, and Florida played great.
Yeah.
And Florida won big. Tonight, teams played relatively even hockey.
Yeah.
The Leafs found a way to win it. So, it's a 1-game scenario now. Should be a great night to be in the building, and you just want to see another really good game. Now, I'm sure Leafs fans obviously want to win and move on to the 3rd round, get ready for the Carolina Hurricanes. But boy, that I did not expect to see them going to a Game 7 before the series started, and certainly after what I saw in Game 5.
No, I think it was 4-0 the other night when I was basically writing, and it wasn't the scoreboard so much as how they looked. And even just thinking about tonight's game, it's a miracle they played so poised and so mostly disciplined. I got a good laugh when Auston Matthews was shaking his head at the high stick call. It's like, well, you quite clearly smashed him across the head with your stick.
Yeah.
But for them to rally, that's the Craig Berube effect as far as I'm concerned, because he did this with the St. Louis team that was down 3-2 in the series too. He maintained the calmness amongst his squad. It filters throughout the room, and they do adopt a 1 period, a 1 game at a time, a 1 shift at a time mentality. And it did seem like that tonight. It seemed like Toronto played 3 different games each period. They had a different way Florida was on the attack in the second. They played a perfect road game, as perfect as they needed to play.
Yeah.
It's no such thing as
they were committed, Kyle. They were committed. They were physical when they had opportunities. They blocked, like I said, 31 shot blocks. They're probably leading the playoffs in shot blocks. I'd have to double check that, but they're very, very effective at getting in the lane and blocking shots. And again, I mean, they had 31 blocks tonight. Florida had 10. Now, Toronto had less offensive zone time, but that's significant. They got in the lane, blocked those shots, didn't let those pucks get to the net. They were just more committed in all areas of the ice tonight, which you have to be to beat a Florida Panthers team that, has been to the last two finals and won the Stanley Cup. I would add one thing about Matthews. I think he was probably shaking his head because he got high sticked on a faceoff play, which was really in tight, and the officials probably just didn't see it. And really, Matthews is quite fortunate because Barkov, who was a big, strong guy, got that stick under the visor, and it kind of rattled around in there. And he is fortunate that he did not get a more severe injury. So he was probably wondering, like, hey, you didn't call that one on me. But as you point out, that was clearly a high sticking penalty.
And to be fair, he was also fortunate again on the penalty that he didn't draw blood, because that was an attempted stick lift in which he never made contact with the stick. So that was straight stick to face. And it just is what it is. It's funny. We're going into a game 7 now, and on the heels of the last 2 games, and really on the heels of the series as a whole, it's almost impossible to predict what could happen at this point, because you have the heart of a defending Cup champion. You have a team trying to shake off 4 or 5 centuries worth of, having your fan base crap all over you.
I don't think it's been that long.
Okay, it just feels that way to the.
For some people, it does feel that way. I would imagine. You're right.
Yeah. So you have this, but good things happen for them tonight. Whether or not it was a goal that should have been stopped, Matthews scored the game-winning goal tonight for his team. That's a huge monkey off his back. I suspect that will allow him to come out and play a little bit looser on Sunday night. Just a little bit.
I mean, it's good not to have to answer the question, right? It's good to score the goal. He, at the end of the day, it was off the rush. There's not a lot of plays where they've had off the rush in this series. Florida is so good. They got a chance off the rush. He had a little bit of time and space. He was able to get the puck off. It looked like I said, it just had it came off the stick weird with Gustav Forsling getting his stick in there, and it beat Bobrovsky on the ice through the 5 holes. So it's just good, for goal scorers. That's always the thing. It's like, that's why, earlier in the series when he missed the empty net, it's important for goal scorers to score goals so they don't get into these stretches of 5 and 6 and 8 games where it wears on them, and then they also get asked about it. But more importantly, it just wears on them. And, that stick gets a little heavier. You're wondering if you start to wonder if it's going to happen for you. He's gone. I think this was the 11th game against Florida in the playoffs. He had not scored. So it's a big, it was a big goal at the time. And it was even bigger because Matthews scored it on a play from Marner, right? Those two guys were under fire after that last game. They were brutal. And it was very clear they were brutal. And, we all know the subplots here. Marner's contract is up. Who knows if there's going to be changes. There's going to be probably changes in that organization no matter how this ends up. So, for Matthews to score that goal tonight on an assist from Marner, it's an important goal for them. But, Paul Maurice likes to point out, and I think it's true having watched hockey for so long. I mean, especially these series. And again, this is a great example this week. Every game is a new game. And so there'll be a new game on Sunday. And the Florida Panthers have been very good on the road in the playoffs. They're a battle-tested team. They got a great goaltender. They're strong in all areas. It's going to be a challenge, but for those of us who are sports fans, we love a game 7, and we love the opportunity to see. I mean, what a great story the Leafs could write if they can win this game on home ice and move on to the next round. So it's going to be fun on Sunday night in Toronto, no matter how things play out.
Yeah, EJ, we talked doing these shows late in the season, just as it was winding down, about how then it's almost as if in the playoffs, the Leafs need a moment. And we thought maybe it would be like a Matthews hat trick at a crucial time or something like that. But really, maybe what they need was that turkey game 5, and then to come back with a road win and take it back home and win it on their own ice. If they're going to shake all of this off, and you know how every team has that moment where they really finally truly believe to themselves that they can get this done. I feel like the Leafs are now staring that in the face Sunday night. Going to game 7, even though it's only the second round with the defending Stanley Cup champions, is nothing to turn your nose up at.
No.
But for so many reasons, they have to win that hockey game. And they all feel that.
You know what? The other thing too is like we've talked about this long cup drought. I mean, these guys, I don't think necessarily feel that. I think the thing that, especially the core guys who've been here, feel they've been here now for what is it, 8, 9 years in the playoffs
Yeah.
together. Some of these guys, and they haven't gotten it done. And like that's the thing I always look to is like at some point in time, these guys are such competitors to get to the level they've gotten to. You just think that pain of losing, that hatred of losing drives you to try to get to a higher level. And,
Yeah.
in years past, for whatever reason, it hasn't happened. Like the other night, Kyle, watching that game when Marner threw that backhand pass through the middle of the ice and it led to a goal against, I'm sitting there going, like they should just bench him. I mean, this is not acceptable. There has to be accountability. And then I stopped myself for a minute and I said, this is not a 21-year-old player.
Yeah.
And like that should have happened years ago. And for whatever reason, it really never did, to my knowledge. Like they've never, there's been pressure from the media and, they put tremendous pressure on themselves. But there's never been a situation. I don't remember Sheldon Keefe sitting those guys for long stretches and they would make similar mistakes in games. So at the end of the day, they're learning this year a lot. They're learning through the mistakes they've made in the first round and the second round. And hopefully they can apply those lessons quickly. And I thought they applied a lot of those lessons tonight. When they had when they did not have an opportunity to make a play, the puck went in the zone deep. They tried to create foot races. They tried to win puck battles. When they were in the zone and in trouble, they flipped the puck up in the air and out of the zone. They did those things. The puck has to come out and it has to go in on the offensive blue line. If it's a 3-on-2 or a 2-on-1, it's an odd man rush, you can make a play. But a lot of times the Florida Panthers have it stacked up. There's no play. If you want to try to play into that, all you're going to do is give them fuel to go the other way. So I thought the Leafs were much better at those situational moments, shift in and shift out, where they got pucks out and then they were able to get pucks in and try to create foot races and try to create some offensive zone time.
Barring any injuries we don't know about as of right now, I imagine we're going to see the lineup stay the way it was tonight for Sunday.
Yeah, I have to think so. I mean, you're right. Barring injury, and we know, like you mentioned, Nyes looked like he had gotten nicked up, and he's been terrific in these playoffs.
Yes.
I mean, what a terrific find that's been for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Matthew Nyes. So hopefully, whatever's bugging him, he can get this day or so to get back on track and be ready to go in Game 7. And it's just got to be the same mentality, just like I just said. Pucks in, pucks out. I know it's not sexy, but you can't feed in to the Florida Panthers transition game. It's a losing game to do that. So we'll see. Like I said, we'll see if they can apply these lessons that they have learned throughout these playoffs and throughout the season in the most important moment on Sunday night.
I'm going to throw a hypothetical at you here only because it's likely. I don't know what the situation is currently, so correct me if this is not a possibility. Yeah. But if there is a chance that Stolarz is available to play Sunday, who starts?
Well, you got to go with the guy who just got a shutout for you, don't you? I mean,
yeah.
I don't think Stolarz will be available yet. It doesn't say. There's been nothing to indicate that he would be. Joseph Woll has played really well. When the team has played well in front of him, he has played well. He played really good in Game 4. I thought he played well early in Game 5 until the team kind of just played so poorly that even he kind of caved in. And I thought he played extremely well tonight. There was because there was a lot of zone time. There were 80 shot attempts. He was up and down and side to side. I thought he was reading the play particularly well. I thought he made a great save on the Sam Bennett deflection opportunity with about 7.5 minutes left in the game. He read that play. He got his body. He was big there, and he was able to stop the puck. So I thought Joseph Woll, I mean, listen, I would have been happy if Anthony Stolarz had never gotten hurt, and we would have seen Stolarz, throughout, because he has played so well down the stretch. But Joseph Woll has come in and played very, very well. And remember, Kyle, this is a guy that at the start of the season, they probably thought he was going to be their starter. They had both guys, and Stolarz played so well early and then came back and played so well late. Joseph Woll played a lot of games for them this year, and he's been, he's a drafted Toronto Maple Leafs player, and he's going to get a big chance now coming up on Sunday night. I mean, I would say this for these guys is embrace the opportunity. I mean, what a moment. Like, you have to continue to play within yourself and play shift to shift and do all those things we've talked about. But relish the opportunity to be on that stage. I mean, because the fans who are watching here, let's face it, people still talk about Davey Keon and Teeter Kennedy. And this is years and years and years later. For this team and this group of, 20 players who will take the ice, and those people, the coaches and the managers and everything, this is their moment, their opportunity. So they performed very well tonight. We'll see if they can bring that game on the airplane back with them and put it on the ice on Sunday.
Yeah, it's interesting because, Florida has the inbuilt advantage that if they lose Sunday night, well, they just won the cup, and so they're going to just step onto the ice more relaxed. They've, that Edmonton series last year, there is very few things that could raise your anxiety and stress, and they still managed to win that series after blowing that series lead. So they've seen all of this before. They're going to be very, very loose as a hockey team out there. The Leafs' best chance right now is to listen to what their coach says. He's very good in these moments. He's very good at providing the tutelage they require right now. And I think if he can convince these guys of what you just pointed out, EJ, go out and have fun, because you have the opportunity to become legends in this city. But it ain't going to happen if you play tight. It's only going to happen if you stay loose and trust the guy next to you and play your best version of your game, play as a team, and all of those cliche things. They now have to look inwards to find one more night.
Yep. Use your head. Play smart. When the play's not there, make the other team go 200 feet. That's what it comes down to in the playoffs. It's not shinny. We're not playing an exhibition game. It doesn't have to be pretty. It usually isn't. How about Brad Marchand's goal in overtime, in game 3, right? I mean, it carried and then went up in the air and dropped behind Joseph Woll. None of it has to be pretty. It just has to be effective, and do what you can do to just play your game as best as you can. I've been really impressed, when I think of the totality of the series, because the Toronto Maple Leafs try to play pretty much the same way the Florida Panthers play, and the Panthers are very good at it. I didn't think the Leafs could get this series to 7 games because of the styles of the two teams. So they have a lot to be proud of. I mean, certainly Game 5 was nothing to be proud of, but here we are. So we'll see what happens on Sunday night.
So I don't think it's unfair at this point to give a brief look ahead, which I'll turn over to you. But one of these teams is going home Sunday night or staying home, and the other team is either welcoming or visiting Carolina. I believe Carolina, did they finish ahead of Florida? That's correct, right?
Carolina finished ahead of Florida, and they will have home ice if they play them. If Toronto wins the series, then Toronto will have home ice.
Okay, so how do these two teams stack up against a Carolina team that pretty much just disassembled a Washington team that was very good all year long?
Well, as we talked about late in the season, and we talked about the path for Stanley Cup contenders, right? And the path in the Metropolitan Division is the path of least resistance in this league, in my view. And the Carolina Hurricanes took care of a battered Devils team in 5. And then they were impressive to me against the Washington Capitals, who I thought, could maybe push them around a little bit. But the Hurricanes' playoff experience really shone through in the series, and Freddie Anderson played well. I think they had the Capitals on their heels for the entirety of the series.
Yes.
And the Carolina Hurricanes have only had to play 10 playoff games. They haven't been pushed hard. Freddie Anderson seems to be healthy. I think personally they would rather see the Leafs than to see the Florida Panthers. I think the Panthers present a really difficult challenge for them. They played them 2 years ago in the playoffs and got swept. I think historically the Carolina Hurricanes have had a little bit of a whammy on the Leafs. I go back to, I think it was 2002 in the Eastern Conference Final when you were in. I don't know. I have to go back and look at how they did the playoffs that year, but it was the Final Four, and the Leafs ended up losing to Carolina, and Carolina went to the final only to lose to Detroit. But Carolina's got that's a team that's got, I talk about that hatred of losing, Kyle, right? Like that year after year after year. And they got a lot of guys in that room that have been through it. And so they're going to be, I wouldn't say they would be necessarily. I think Florida would be a favorite over them. I think Toronto would probably be a slight favorite over them, especially coming off a win over Florida. But I don't think they'll be an easy opponent by any means, because they play straight ahead hockey. They're going all the time. They put you on your heels. They are a different type of animal than Florida or some of the other teams that you might play. So the Canes have taken care of their business, and they're just sitting there waiting. They're happy to see Toronto and Florida beat each other up one more time.
And literally and figuratively.
Yeah, and Carolina's like, let's face it, in their room, they're dreaming of. They haven't gotten to the final, Kyle.
No.
They've been close. They've been to the Eastern Conference final, but they've never gotten to the Stanley Cup final. So whoever they get, they're going to be a handful.
Yeah, they really are. It would be good hockey. They're going to have a lot less kilometers on the odometer going into that series, but you get this deep in the playoffs, there's just more to it than that, I think, because if the team that wins Game 7 Sunday night looks really good doing it, and if that team were the Leafs and they came in with 2 straight wins, that momentum probably means as much as the rest.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, the Leafs can only worry about shift 1 of Game 7. And
of course.
Being as ready as they can be. For those of us watching, I guess, who knows? I mean, as it plays out, I just think that Carolina's been impressive, and they've taken advantage of an easier path. I mean, Toronto having to take on the Florida Panthers here in the second round, the Dallas Stars having to play the Colorado Avalanche in the first round, the Florida Panthers having to go through Tampa and then Toronto. I mean, some of these teams have had more difficult paths. Carolina, we knew that division was a little just not quite the same level of intensity, and they've taken advantage of it. So we'll see what they can do with it.
Okay, let's shift over to the other conference very briefly. Edmonton took care of Las Vegas in 5. That was a pretty impressive performance. Skinner came on at the end of that series to really solidify himself. He played well for them. Now we've got Dallas and Winnipeg. Dallas up 3-2, playing in Dallas tomorrow night. Winnipeg's backs are up against the wall, and they have played very poorly on the road in the playoffs tonight. This is Dallas' series to win for certain.
Well, I mean, the Dallas Stars, if they win their home games, they win the series, right? I mean, the Winnipeg Jets have struggled mightily on the road. They haven't won a road game yet in the playoffs. They were able to hold serve at home, albeit right to the last second and overtime against St. Louis, but they lost the first game of this series at home, and now they've got to find a way to win one in Dallas. I would say this. They have been better on the road in this series, and I thought they played actually very well in their last effort in Dallas in game number 4, and could have won that game. I thought they made some mistakes. Hellebuck wasn't awful, but I mean, there was 1 or 2 maybe he could have grabbed. And so they ended up losing that game. We'll see how it plays out in Game 6, but I wouldn't count the Jets out, because if the Jets can play the same way they've played in the last 2, I think the Dallas Stars are going to have to up the ante, because they've been leaning on Jake Ottinger quite a bit, I think. And the Dallas Stars, to me, as I've been watching them, I mean, I've watched them now all year and in years past, they play kind of in fits and starts. And when you play that way, you never really get a big lead on anybody, if you have a lead at all. Mm-hmm. And so, that's why I think when I look at it and I watch those 2 teams play, Winnipeg and Dallas, I think Edmonton is primed to go back to the Stanley Cup final. I just very impressed with the way they're playing. They had some adversity in round 1. They overcame it. They got some healthy guys back in the lineup. They're going to get Ekholm back at some point. The goalies have been good enough. And Auston Matthews and Leon Draisaitl, boy, they are dug in. So I think they're going to be a handful for anybody. But as you know, as we've seen in these last 2 games, anything can happen.
It sure can. And we will leave it on that, because we have to get rested, because there's a big Game 6 tomorrow night, an even bigger Game 7 Sunday night, when the Leafs will travel back home to play the Florida Panthers, and a winner takes all. Winner moves on to play the Carolina. I'm just thinking out loud. I'm foreseeing a Winnipeg and Edmonton conference final and a Toronto and Carolina conference final, just the way Gary Bettman drew it up. Well, all Canadians all the time, baby.
I haven't had a chance to peek ahead at the script yet, but when I do, I'll let you know what I find out.
Well, I mean, every team left is still a great hockey team to watch. So
Yeah,
we're in for a treat no matter what happens. But one
I
game at a
agree.
time for us too, and for us on the Toronto Sports Rush Network. We will be back Sunday night post game, win or lose, to recap everything we saw and whether the Leafs are going to the golf course or going to the next round. We will have all of the reactions and through the day. Please like and subscribe to the channel. There's interview shows, there's everything you need covering sports in and around the Toronto area. Thank you for joining us again tonight. Once again, my name is Kyle Andrew. I was joined by Mr. EJ Hradek on the Toronto Sports Rush Network, brought to you by Bet Rivers. Thank you to all our producers behind the scenes, Shane, Tim, the whole crew of you. Appreciate the hard work you do. See you in a couple of nights, everybody.